Pat Bradford,
Am here.
Judy Justice, Josie Barnhart, Kimberly Clark, Paul Slavic, Hannah Moon, Philip Sutton, Charlene Thompson, Jared Worthington, Stephanie Walker, Rob Zappel, Natalie English, John Hennett, Christopher Riley, Livian Jones, Eric Cradle, Amanda Kusiak, Lisa Wurzbacher.
Thank you. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance, Dr. Morgan, and then invocation is going to be Jared Worthington. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity that we have today as we come together to do things that are here to set up success for our students, for our community, for our schools, and for our staff and stakeholders. We ask that you help us to be led with those endeavors and let our passion be seen as something that is there to only ensure the success of our students and future generations. And we thank you for this opportunity. And we ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. And I would like to recognize Board Chair Pete Wildeboer and former Board Chair Melissa Mason are with us today. Vice Chair now. And I want to add something to the agenda, but we're going to approve the agenda. And I want to show you guys the interactive map with the city limits drawn on it. It's quite interesting. So is there a motion to, let's see, approve the agenda first? Anyone? I'll make it if I can get a second. Okay, first and second, all approving, say aye. All right, next is the minutes. I will move that we accept the minutes as written. You all should have had a copy of them. Can I get a second? Second, please.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. All right. Anita, are you able to put that map up? Okay. You guys remember that Dr. Morgan and Dawn's team in technology, they went to a great amount of trouble to create an interactive map for the bond proposal going forward. So, Ms. Justice, I don't know if you've seen this before, but every one of those little icons is one of our schools, and when you click on it, it will bring up what's going to happen at that school as a result of the bond. Yeah, it's amazing. It's just wonderful. But the other day, we were at a meeting, and I met the Chief of Staff for the City of Wilmington. First name Dennis, last name I can't pronounce in public. And I asked him, how many of our schools are in your city? And he didn't know, and I didn't know either. So Dr. Morgan's team sent them our map, and they drew this, see this red line around it? You see the red line? That's the city limit. Maybe scroll out, Anita. See the red line? If you see the red line, there it is. There's a red line on it though. No. Go back to the other one. Go back to the other one. Oh, the red line is there. Okay. I can't see it. But if you go, and we will do this now that we can actually see it well, we'll count, but more of our schools, way more of our schools are in the city of Wilmington that are not in the city of Wilmington. I find that interesting. I don't know what that means to us, but as we go forward with the bond proposal, I know that I can have discussions with my people who live downtown that say, well, what does this have to do with me? This is a New Hanover County bond. It has nothing to do with the city. Well, look at how many schools are in the city, more than not. It's probably 2/3 versus 1/3. And so that's just a piece of information that I find fascinating that we will keep in consideration as we go forward as a committee, as we go forward in the county. And what's interesting about this new Chief of Staff for the City of Wilmington, he came out of Charlotte Mech, and he had worked on the bond there the same time as Natalie. So he's got some expertise in our lane that hopefully we can capture and do something with. Now that we do have a quorum, We are going to do two things today, the budget work session, and then we're going to do the technology sustainability. And we're going to have to compress the time a little bit because some of us have to go, or some committee members and staff have to go to a county meeting that we didn't know was overlapping in the time. So take it away, Ashley.
Yep, so in your packet, you should have a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to start on that second page. This is going through local revenue, so our general fund or local fund. Sometimes we interchange that. So looking forward into next year and looking at revenues, one-time revenue we received this year that we will not be receiving next year is about 2.1 million you see there. And that's made up of some FEMA reimbursement we received to help balance the budget this year, and then we also sold approximately 13.5 acres over at Johnson Pre-K Center, which brought in another $1.7 million. And so that was one-time funding that we need to account for as we build this year's budget. We also took a look at fines and forfeitures over the past 4 years, excluding the red light funding since we no longer receive that. And we feel confident that we can increase that fines and forfeitures revenue by about $554,000. That would generate some additional revenue in our budget. And then also we are looking to request an additional 2.33% from the county, which will amount to that $2.4 million. And so
that 2.33 is what's considered the consumer price index. It's just the increase in the normal cost of doing business, inflation, accounting, that sort of thing.
right. So those when you look at all of that together, that would bring an increase in our net revenue of $800,000. And so that's pretty much our starting point on the revenue side for building the budget.
And I might just add that under that increase in county local appropriation, that 2.33, some people use the number 3%, so that we do have, among our group, we do have a discrepancy in the 2.33 versus 3. Cost of living, it's most of it, but it's not all of it.
And then next, we want to take a look at our mandated increases. And so, of course, we don't have a state budget yet for next year, so we have to estimate what we think the state will mandate for raises. Looking at the past 5 years, we're estimating the state's going to give a 3% raise to all staff. We're also estimating a 1% increase in employer retirement, and then about a 5% increase in health insurance paid by the employer. So that would bring, so retirement increase would go from 24.67% to 25.67%. And then the health insurance increase would go up from $8,500 per employee annually to $8,925 per employee annually. And so do keep in mind those are estimates based on historical information. Until we have a state budget, we won't be able to tie those numbers down. Are there any questions about that before we go on to the next slide? Okay.
And just remember that
Oh, same slide then.
when the state gives a 3% raise, they only provide the raise to state-funded employees. We have to cover the cost of the local employees because we're not going to say, well, you get paid from this pot of money, so you don't get the raise kind of thing.
And
So we
that,
have to balance that
and that
cost of
number of employees that are paid locally is,
it varies every year. Currently, it's 652. Is that right, Ashley?
Nope.
Look, I nailed it.
And, if I could just throw something in?
yes, you may.
Thank you. We talked about 2.33%, but I did a little, research myself for this meeting and for the next meeting, and the average housing is gone up 3.8%. Energy has gone up 6%. And so, if, you know, we're going to settle for 2.33%, you know, that's, you know, we're putting our staff well behind, you know, in a lot of areas. So that's why we need the average local government in North Carolina projecting average COLA or combined cost of living increase is about a 5.5%, not a 2.33%. Yeah. So anyway, that's, you know, figures like that.
That's cost of living and merit combined, correct?
Yes.
Cost of living, we're seeing over the county, is around 2.17, 2.2%. So the merit is something you look at separately. We're going through the same discussion, so I'm giving my head here, but I appreciate you getting into that.
Well, the big thing is, I don't know if you looked at, you know, when I get my energy bill every month, it's you know, astronomical. You know, I have solar and I still am paying $600 a month for you know, that kind of stuff. $600? Yeah, well, I have had a $600 bill, unfortunately, went over the winter, and that's with solar helping out supposedly. You know, it's gone up 6%, and you know, so when we turn around and say, well, 2.33%, the average throughout the state of North Carolina, the average, what everybody else is putting up is 3.4%, not 2.33%.
Everybody else is putting out
The state average for the COLA is 3.4%. That's what local state governments are giving as an average. If you average the whole state, you know, we're, you know, one that, you know, that what they're saying is they're needed to keep ahead of, to keep people where they should be is about 5.5% statewide. Absolutely, absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely.
Interesting. John, did you have a question?
Of the 652 locally funded school employees, what's the ratio of teachers to assistant principals to?
That's a good question. It depends sort of on the buckets, right? So we have some choice and opportunity in that. Generally, we try to move whenever a employee is a higher paid employee, national board certified teacher, we always push those into the state budget simply because they pay by position. A lot of our custodians are paid locally. A lot of our office staff are paid locally. We have some counselors who are paid locally. It sort of runs the gamut, and it sort of sometimes shifts from year to year depending on who is where we can maximize the money the most. Does that make sense? Yes. The TA budget, the challenge with the TA budget is the state actually does translate that into dollars. However, we know that the cost of living in Wilmington is different, so our teacher assistants make an average of $1 more an hour than the state average. So the state thinks they're funding 178 TAs, they're really only funding us about 156. So the rest of those roll over into local. Did I say that right?
Local employee salary does not include 652 county funded positions, or does?
It does.
It does.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
This is the amount that it's more that it's going to cost the same number of employees for next year.
This is the increase.
Yes, correct.
You know, the standalone 652
It's a good question.
is
Yes, actually, I do. It's about 27 million.
27 million.
We looked at that the other day. Did we miss that? Is that
We
close?
did. I didn't remember the number, but we
The
did look at that.
652 is 27 million?
It's about, and that's split about 17 million
Okay, that's right.
classified and about 10 million certified.
That's right, because this is about increases, and that number, the 2.5 is increases. So,
Yeah, the increases of both school employees and county employees.
Locally funded employees, is that what you're saying?
local versus state.
Locally funded employees. When you say county versus local, I don't know what the difference is.
I'm trying to sort that out too.
Yeah.
All right, so remember when we did the exercise the other day where we said, geez, this is what the state provides us, this is what we really need? That overage is usually what you can consider the local
Right.
investment. So we have, the state sends us a certain number of positions, and we feel like to do the minimum safety required, educationally required things at schools, there are 652 more positions that are needed. Now, that number breaks down to about 10 million of that is certified employees, and about 17 million of that is classified. 17 million, yeah. But that doesn't include the supplements either. That's separate from that as well, or is that in that 10 million?
This number does include increases related to
supplements.
local supplements, the benefits, and the raises for locally paid employees. Now, except supplements, state doesn't provide funding for supplements, so all the supplements are paid locally.
Yeah, that's, what I'm looking for is what's the hit on the cap for the, if we do a 3% increase for all the teachers, as you point out, this can't, segregate one group to the other.
Right.
What is the increase that we're looking for? There'll be more slides. Oh.
We'll put a pin in that question because I'd like to know that number too. But you're looking for the difference between the 2.33 and the 3, or the entire difference?
I just want to know, what Chris said 30 seconds ago, that, there are 652 employees paid for by the county, and we're anticipating a 3% increase
Yes.
in salaries. What is that increase?
That number.
in salary?
That is that number.
The 2,559.
Is that right?
Yes.
Maybe I think I know what you're asking. Are you asking that of that 2.5 million, how much of that 2.5 million relates to the 652 employees that are county funded versus those that are state funded? So how much of that increase relates to?
It's all related to locally funded, county-funded employees,
So none of this
plus
relates to
the
state.
supplement.
plus supplements, because the way our supplement scale works is every year if you stay, you go up on that salary scale, and it's a tiers. So you have to plan for increases for the local supplement as well. The schedule is not changing, it's just the placement of individuals on the schedule.
No, because the state should send their money along.
There's revenue.
That's
The only
right.
thing that this includes is
That's
the
right.
increase in the supplement.
Right,
Because we have to pay that regardless of
That
where they're
makes-
paid from.
Gotcha.
right, yep.
It's illuminating for sure.
And then we've also included on this slide the charter school payments, because if our revenue does go up, as we had talked about on the previous slide, 800,000, charter schools will get their portion of the 800,000. So we've included that increase in charter school payments here.
Now, I'll make it clear, that does not equate to an increase in charter school students. We've done the research and show that our charter, private, and homeschool numbers are not increasing. But if we get an increase from the county to our budget, we have to pass that portion also along to the charter school. Just want to make sure people weren't thinking, look, charter school is getting higher. It's getting higher because we're getting higher.
And that's increase, that 64 number is the increase, not what we pay out to charters total. It's just the increase for this year.
Right. And so on the next slide, I wanted to share with the committee, based on our student enrollment declining 839 students, we are anticipating the state reducing funding, so we would lose this 49 positions we've outlined here. And this is just based on the formulas that we went through before. But when we lose positions on the state side, that actually frees up money on the local side, because we're using local money to pay the supplements for these individuals. So this actually puts 578,000 back in the budget to be able to be repurposed, reused a different way. So we wanted to outline that for you here.
So let me see if I follow. If it's 659, but 652 that's local. So then we theoretically could take away for next year that 49, so for next year it'd be,
No.
No, that is
So
a
these are
decrease in our
state-paid
state funding.
employees that we're talking about on this slide.
but we'll move local over to state, right? So then
No,
that
they're
would-
sending us 39 less teachers
Okay,
next year
sorry.
than they're sending us now.
Got it.
Right.
Thank you.
But since we do put in a supplement for them, we want to make sure that we recognize that that money won't be spent on supplements because they won't be here.
Right.
Do you have a comparative study for other cities, counties,
As-
from the state, and where we fall?
Yes. So ironically, if you remember I'm so glad you asked that question, just a little hug. I spent literally 2 minutes this morning, and I sent the board 4 different news articles about what's going on around the state. If you remember, a couple of years ago, we right-sized, prior to the end of our ESSER funding, approximately, over the last 3 years, it's 352 positions,
Yep.
357, 350 positions less. Gaston County, yesterday, had to go to their county commissioners and either lay off 180 people by Friday or get $10 million to balance their budget for the year we're currently in. You guys know about Winston-Salem, obviously. Wake County is talking about cutting $18 million of special ed services.
Just EC.
Just EC. Cumberland County, Guilford County, what we did 2 years ago, you are now seeing reverberate in other districts. So in regards to the per pupil funding, there are a couple of nuances to the state funding formula. The state says they send about $12,000 in a per pupil allotment to the schools, somewhere between 11 and 12. We only receive about 7,000 per pupil of that money, because a good chunk of that money goes towards rural counties, disadvantaged student funding, and
Low wealth.
low wealth and small county money, which we don't receive any of. So our per pupil amount is a little lower than when I was a principal in Allegheny County, because we got all of those, because we were low wealth and small district and rural. So that 11,000, 12,000 number is sort of a state average. It's not necessarily our average.
It's kind of like the economic development tiers, I guess. But if you look at Pender, Brunswick, and Hanover, we're top growth. Is there anything that bumps up our ranking for that, or do we get?
Well, the only way that that has hit us recently is we used to receive money from the state to help balance our local supplement. We are now a county that is too wealthy to receive that funding. So when you kind of get through this, just remember the number 2.3 million, which is the amount that they cut us last year. And you'll see that number kind of reverberate back up again, because we're still struggling to make sure that we can balance that. And we don't agree, nobody sitting at this table, I think, would agree that the solution is to pass that burden on to the people receiving the supplements.
Yeah. Now, would you guys be interested in those 3 news stories, Gaston, Wake, Cumberland, and Guilford, that he sent to us this morning? Because we can certainly share it with the committee. I read them all, and, you know, we find ourselves in a unique position in that we're doing pretty good. We still have funding issues, but we're not having to get $10 million to make payroll by Friday. And so these other counties are in these huge problems. The EC situation for that one school district is just shocking. And it could be happening here, except for the fact that we've been doing a good job this last 2 years in keeping us from that cliff. But if y'all want to have, I can ask Anita or Jenny to share those 4 articles with you.
I am emailing Jenny all 4 of the links, and she can email them out to everybody. Look at that.
Yeah, they're very interesting read, very. Yeah, they're very interesting. I mean, imagine $10 million by Friday.
About $7,007.
All right,
That's pretty
so we
close.
can move on.
Sorry,
If
go
you
ahead.
have no more questions? We're good? Okay.
Okay, so on the next slide, just summarizing what we've gone through so we can see where we are at this point. So increase in revenue, 800,000, The salary increases, benefit increases, we talked about the 2.6 million. And then the supplements coming back in to be available to be used, repurposed for something else. That brings our net funding gap at this point, before looking at any budget requests from schools or departments, $1.2 million. So that's where we are at this point, just considering the things that we've talked about. So this is, of course, a funding gap, so we're looking for ways to balance the budget up to this point. So on the next slide, we wanted to go through the requests that were submitted from schools and departments. And so the first area is superintendent's office. We're actually reducing in that area $140,000, 10% reduction to the superintendent budget, and a 10% reduction in all central office supply budgets.
Yes, Ms. Barnhart.
I want to highlight that, so especially for the county commissioners, we are cutting the overhead, that's all.
Well, I'll tell you that I cannot cut schools if I'm not gonna cut central office. However, you've heard me say more times than poor Mr. Zappel wants to hear, I'm sure, that we are at a subsistence level. I'm now having to trade in everything just to have enough to get schools to function. And we are now choosing between essential services. Everyone's gonna have to buy their own pens. I'm gonna stand by the copier several days a week yelling at people for making copies. This is sort of where we are.
And so I do want to share that this is what came out of a budget work session. No decisions have been made, so I might be speaking as though decisions have been made, but this is where we are through the budget process. And so the next area on the next slide, finance and business services is going to reduce a support associate position, which will provide $67,500 towards the budget.
Can you define what support associate means?
Yep, so this is a position in the purchasing department that was assisting with purchasing, keying or approving requisitions, and assisting with bidding documents and things like that. So we feel like we can rearrange some things, and this position's currently vacant, so we just will not fill it.
Let me just comment, when you absorb a position like that, that means everybody at the table gets a little bit more work every day.
That's why I was asking.
Yeah, and I've downsized, in a company twice now. And that just means everybody picks up a little bit more job duties, but they don't get any more pay.
Our next division is technology and digital learning. The net request was $666,000, and the request was related to increases in contracted services and software, and then also our NC Connect Ed increased $1.50 per student. And so this is increases to current contract software that we're using.
NC Connect Ed is what?
That's,
Thank you, Dawn.
that's the state system, so our Infinite Campus would fall under that, as well as some of our staff development resources. So when we say that we are going to, the state's, platform of software, it's all the stuff that's, thank you, home-based. It used to be called home-based, and so that we switched it now to NC Connect Ed. But there's several resources there that the state provides.
Thank you.
Student support services has requested an increase of $283,000. The first piece of that request is for exceptional children Braille. It's a classified position. We had someone who was doing this at night, that they had a full-time job during the week, and at night and on weekends they were providing some of these services, but that really isn't sustainable. So this is to bring that position in to provide services to those children. reclass EC and TA from a grade 57 to a 59. That would be about a 2% raise for those individuals. And it's because we recognize ECTA's job is different than, elementary school TA job. So we wanted to be able to provide that reclass for that group. And then also occupational therapists, physical therapists, they're now required to have a doctorate, is that correct? And so we wanted to provide an additional stipend to them because of that extra education requirement on those positions. And so the total cost of all those things is $283,000 request from student services.
On this slide, I'd like you to go ahead and just put a star next to number 2 and number 3, and I'll explain why at the end. Okay, just put a little star next to it.
Because of the increased educational requirement, this does not displace anybody currently in the job that does not have it.
It
Correct.
does not.
Yeah,
That's
it's
correct.
a grandfathering thing.
Yep.
Yep. No, it's, the
The
increase in
doctorate
licensure?
requirement.
Yeah, I think so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Operations and planning are requesting a stipend to be able to have 2 employees already on staff to provide some recruiting certification to retain drivers and to alleviate the DMV bottleneck that we're seeing to get bus drivers on the road. They're also asking for increase to cover increases for contracted services related to inflation, labor costs. We're taking back responsibility of the school fields, and Rob, you'll help me when I get done, clean up anything I'm saying wrong. And the estimate for that's about $100,000. And they will, or they are planning to eliminate a grounds tech position as well to help out balancing the budget. So please add anything that maybe I didn't say.
I don't think
or-
you said anything wrong, but just for clarification, the
Perfect.
Veterans Park responsibilities have been part of the county's Parks and Recs maintenance responsibilities ever since Veterans Park opened. So when that park first opened, there was a 25-year agreement that at the end of that 25 years, the responsibility for the landscaping maintenance would revert back to the school system. And we're in the process now of finalizing the survey for that.
But we're thinking it's gonna be about $100,000 increase.
Yes.
No,
No.
the parts we use.
The school campus. So they were actually maintaining everything around the schools, not just the fields. And so we're taking back maintenance of the school grounds as well as the fields that our schools use.
And on this sheet, if you can star the first one, we are actually looking at some other ways to fund this so it doesn't have to be passed on to anyone else. So Rob is in a current fight with the DMV, so.
And going back to that 100,000, it's 100,000 for number 3, the Veterans Park. That doesn't include the vacant grounds tech position.
No, that's.
Those
just
two aren't
one.
combined.
No.
They're
Correct.
separate.
So is there any possibility of step increasing that? I mean, I understand the agreement with the county sunsetted, but, just it's $100,000 dropped into our budget. Yes, additional, I suppose the prior boards planned for this.
I didn't understand that last comment, I'm sorry.
I propose, we knew this was coming,
Right.
but we didn't plan for it in the past, the sunset of the 25-year agreement.
Well, I wouldn't say we didn't plan for it. I think we have been in discussions about it for the last year. And I think part of what we've been going back and forth. I mean, frankly, the biggest holdup, I think, has been realizing that the underground network for the stormwater system is something that simply can't be picked apart. So there are a number of stormwater retention ponds all around Veterans Park.
True.
They're all interconnected. So at one point, part of what we were talking about was we were going to assume all of this, then we were going to try and divvy up the stormwater, and we realized you can't do that. And so we moved forward with having a survey, and this is something the attorneys have been involved in the conversation with, and recommendations have been made. So we've known it was coming, we haven't moved forward with it formally because we're waiting on the survey, and we were trying to work through some of those questions that both sides had.
I understand, thank you.
Sure.
Rob, are you opposed to keeping the contract the way it is?
No, I'm not. In fact, my predecessor and I both proposed that.
Yeah. And you said no?
Yes. Politely. There was no ill will. It was just, we don't really want to do that.
You guys come from Parks and Gardens?
Mhm.
I just wanted to know, because it seems the easiest thing here would be to just go along. Everyone was happy with it.
Yeah.
Clearly, there's more than I know of, so.
I'll be happy to let them know you said that.
Yeah.
I'll shoot Andy a text.
Let's note that for the recording.
When I served on Parks and Gardens, we knew this was, we talked about it then.
Yeah.
But the county has a stormwater problem. Why would that's the school board do anything with stormwater?
They're not. They're not. I think that was originally part of our concern was simply that in looking at it, I actually looked it up and said, well, this is all under the county's, it's all in the county's name. If we're going to be assuming the stormwater and permitting and anything, we're going to have something set up differently, and that's been the conversation, so we're not going to do that. No. And truthfully, we did propose that. I would love to have kept the contract that way, but I do feel like we've got a really good working relationship, so I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. It would be nice if we didn't have to assume that extra bill, and we tried to avoid that, but.
Are you talking about the
Another
schools having to
conversation.
regulate their own stormwater, or taking away from the county, or that there's a liability?
No.
Accepting what's there now?
No, it's just that the stormwater system that is part of Veterans Park, originally we were looking at what do we need to do if we're going to assume responsibility for Veterans Park campuses again. And part of that discussion was, you don't need to do anything with stormwater, that's going to remain with the county.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to keep us moving.
Yep, we are.
Instruction and academic accountability is our next division. They're requesting an increase to be able to pay for graduation ceremonies at UNCW Trask Coliseum related to some weather issues that we saw last year. And then they're also eliminating, currently there's a vacant supervisor of arts education position. We're considering not filling that position and instead giving a stipend to other employees to be able to pick up some of those responsibilities. In essence, having a lead visual arts person and a lead music arts person where they would receive that stipend, since we wouldn't have, because we still need those responsibilities to happen, that coordination. But having that without the position. The request was also to add additional assistant principals, 3 of those, to provide some more leadership in the school buildings. We know that that's a need, and that's come up several times, I think, in this committee as well. And an increase for contracts and the KEN sustainability plan.
And on this sheet, you can star number 1 and number 3, and you're probably sensing a pattern.
Actually, before you leave that, what is a kiln sustainability plan?
So I forget how many we have. I don't know if anyone's here that knows. Yeah,
You know, like pottery kiln.
there are 36.
Ceramics kiln.
So we're
So I-
getting rid of it?
So I think right now we've got 36 of those, but we don't really have money set aside to make sure those are in good working order and all of those things. And so we wanted to set some money aside, so at least yearly, we can take a look and maybe do some work on one or two, depending on how much money we have available to keep those going. Right now, it's kind of like when one messes up or there's an issue, we quit using it for a while until we can get it fixed. So we just wanted to have a plan there for those, because we currently don't.
It's about $6,000 to $8,000 in that line
Yes.
item, so it's a very small number.
Yeah.
No, but if we're doing away with the arts education, except for those.
We are not doing.
Not doing away with arts education.
Bingo.
We certainly can continue those positions if we need to, however, I think you're gonna see on the next slide that would require a larger investment.
Yes, and Commissioner Zappel, number 2 will definitely put some email in your inbox. We need to go into that, looking at that.
Hold on, number 2 does not impact on the art and music education of your students. You will see a bump in the supervision and support of those teachers, but it will not change a child's bottom line.
Let's make sure the media reports it that way.
Yeah, but again,
Elaborate on that so that there's not.
yeah, I mean, we have typically supervisors who support the work of our subject areas. Math, reading, social studies, science, arts. We are gonna pass some of that supervision need onto a teacher, a lead teacher in a building to support the district because we cannot find the funding to support the entire position moving further. Again, I'm gonna have to cut this position because I don't want 2 more schools to have to share an art and music teacher. So when we're making decisions between essential services, I'm gonna take the hit on the side that doesn't touch children, that doesn't support children.
Is that clear? Are we good?
Yep.
All right.
And the next slide is a summary of what we've just gone over, so you can see all the division school requests here together. So the total budget request that came through is $1,269,806. The original request that initially came to us was about 4.7 million, and we scaled it down to this, going through the divisions and looking at through those requests.
Well, the initial, when the department set what their needs were to our senior staff, it was 16 million. We got it down to 4, and now we've got it down again.
Right.
But the initial request was $16 million increase in operating. And we have knocked that down to this number.
And so the next slide summarizes where we are. So looking at the net budget impact before the request, remember we were at a $1.2 million negative there. And if you add in the total budget request that we just went through, that was another, $1,269,000. So our net funding gap with everything we've looked at so far is that $2.5 million. So that's what we're looking for. And that's taken into account, as we talked about before, the $800,000 increase in revenue.
So,
2.33 now, you're
so we're going to go back through the stars that he had as star. So you're going to go back through the sheets you have and find the places where you starred. Take it away, sir.
We can't stand on a $2.5 million hole. If that was $200,000, I can scrimp and save and make it work. 2.5 is a big number to try to hit. So those things that I asked you to star earlier are not needs. Those are things that we think are important, essential, but I don't have to do them. When you eliminate those numbers, that number gets down under, it's about 1.7 or so. Now, I will tell you that the number of people who wanted to drive over me with their car when I did outside graduations on a Saturday in June are a fairly strong group of people.
8 people went to the hospital from where I was that Saturday morning.
I know that I was one email school board asking to let us have graduation at the football field.
Yeah,
My son was one of those kids.
yeah.
What happened? community college, if we were in the right way.
Yeah, and it is a challenge, because I was a high school principal for 4 years, and every single day of graduation, every year, it was a 50% chance of rain, which is horrifying. So again, it's $30,000, but it's $30,000 we currently do not have. The assistant principal request is, I believe, an essential safety component of our school. However, 2.5 is still 2.5. So we are looking at ways to bring that number down. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to make some difficult decisions with the board about what we wanna fund and when, and how. So this is a chance for you guys to give us your thoughts in this.
So could you list them, I mean, or just, the pages aren't numbered on the slides, but
Yeah, they're doing all.
Sure, the biggest outliers currently are, we truly believe that the job of a special education teacher assistant is fundamentally different than a regular classroom teacher assistant. We think that it will improve their efficacy, improve our ability to put staff the right people in those jobs. So that change from 57 to 59 is one. Our OTs and PTs don't currently have the same supplement that teachers have. And this would not give them the same supplement because they're on a different salary schedule, but it would provide a supplement for that hard-to-fill position.
it's slide 9.
There's the graduation coach, and there is the 3 assistant principals. Those are the sort of big-ticket items that would be different from what we have now.
9, 10, and 11.
So I guess for you guys to know, if we included all these things, I'm $2.5 million off. If I say I'm gonna run this system exactly the way I'm running it now with absolutely no changes, I'm about $1.7 million off. That's kind of where we're going. Now take a spin through those news articles and see that some school systems are asking for 10, 20, $30 million more from their county commissioners. We are asking for just a 2.33% increase on what we currently have. So there is a balance point. That's the thing.
And I think we would also like to know from the committee if you guys are aware of things, especially those of you that are at schools, that we should look at for reduction. Like, we are certainly open to those things as well, because we are still trying to balance here. So if there's any feedback from the committee, we would love to hear that.
So if I subtract 1.7 million, that would be the differentiation. If we don't do those things, from 2.5 million, where we're off, my little calculator comes up with $800,000. So,
No.
that's wrong?
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me,
I don't have it.
but that number's not.
We can go through and add up the things that are wants versus needs, but I'm giving you
Okay.
ballpark figures.
Okay, all right.
Have we reached out to the private sector to, like, break these things up and see who might be interested in supporting different things? Like the special education?
I actually got an idea for that, and I sent it to you, Dr. Barnes. The monopoly that is Live Nation and Ticketmaster, if we approach them about, maybe the city, about a voluntary $1 per ticket for arts education in the county.
I don't know about my ability to lobby the private sector. There's some rules about it, and I'm afraid I just don't know.
Well, I think the leverage is you go to the city. The city owns both of those facilities.
Or you reach out to parents, or that, I mean, I've partnered with Williston on some of their competition things, and we paid for the kids to travel, we paid for backpacks and outfits, and I think if we identified some things and target people who might be interested in that, I mean, if you look at the money and commitment that's gone into the chamber
Yeah.
for educating students and letting them see what's out there,
CLDA.
I think there's a lot of parents or people that would resonate with some of the things that the needs are. We just got to present it and sell it.
And Libby, and you may not know, but was it just last week? We had principal for the day. And I think either all the schools or just shy 1 or 2 had either a business person or a chamber person, since anonymous, or one of us. I know Miss Mason and I both picked up schools. I know county commissioners picked up schools. Mr. Zappel did, Commissioner Zappel did. And that was really fun and interesting, and I learned a lot, and a couple of things that are big takeaways for me. But then, after lunch, we transitioned into this room for a lengthy debrief from everybody that had done it. And that was very enlightening, very helpful. And the chamber, I think, is willing. They talked about, I think every table of participants, all agreed that if we could adopt a school, if the chamber members, businesses could adopt a school. And that's something that the chamber's talking about. But I don't think it's going to help us in this budget. You know what I'm saying? Our need is immediate, and that might work starting next year. And hopefully it will. Hopefully they'll, because they were back there just like, you could tell they're going to come up with
Information
something.
to a lot of companies aren't,
Right.
especially if their kids have graduated.
Yeah, and that's,
Not paying attention to it as much anymore.
yeah, and that's what the chamber did, and they're aware and they're on it. But again, I don't think it's going to help us for this budget. We
Just an idea.
It's a great idea. And Mr. Hennett, I just showed you the map of the city and how many schools are in it. So, that would be a good thing to take up with the chief of staff of the city, maybe.
I looked at my ticket slot earlier this week, and people are paying $10 a ticket to get in the fast lane. I don't think
Where's the fast lane?
$1 for local arts education. It's too late to get it on this season, but
That's an interesting angle.
Yeah. Yeah. Ms. Barnhart?
To piggyback off that, I think it would be kind of the equivalent of the red light stop cameras that the city used to have, and then they terminated that contract, so we no longer get that. So I think it could be a similar model, perhaps, to do something like that. Like if we were going to approach the city to have this conversation. What I see as a concern, and I love this idea of this joint partnership with our private sectors, but a lot of these things are consistent values, these are consistent positions, and so I think I don't think it's right to ask our community to say, I want you to fund an exceptional Braille children classified position. Things that we could potentially seek support, like a stipend for a district support. We are not cutting arts, but to give a higher stipend potentially to some of our arts educators that would support district work. I think that could be something that could be solicited. Those things like that. So there's only two that I question if we can maybe have some wiggle room. One, which I thought would be interesting, is that graduation at UNCW. If we have some board members that we could talk to and potentially see if there's an opportunity for partnership there to still allow for that. But I know that line item was 30,000, I believe was said. 35. Thank you for that correction. But that would be an interesting opportunity, as well as what one of my colleagues said with the city of proposing a similar model of like the red light camera was with potentially live nation. I have no idea the mechanics of that, but I think those would be two good conversations to have.
That's a good idea because, the PTO at the school where I was last week, they had raised $51,000 for something by 10, and they were going till 3. And so $35,000 to cross-district PTOs or businesses that might want to keep us in out of the heat. It was pretty bad last year. It really was.
Well, and there's other things too. We could sell the tickets instead of giving them to the kids. But I think that in the same year that we're looking at promoting in this community a $320.5 million bond, I think we need to be balanced in our requests.
True.
If that makes sense.
True.
Because we do have to get that across the line. That is an essential part of our plan for the next 10 years. And I think for me, I just want to make sure that we are trying to be as transparent as we can. We're trying to be as open as we can about where we are. And so I want you guys to see that we're not just looking for random things that we want. This is how close to the line we're having to live.
To give you the context of an opportunity between Hanover, Pennsylvania, and Greenville Lake Amphitheater in 2025, there's 180,900 tickets. In 2025. So I don't see a problem in going to the city and asking for this. It seems like a no-brainer to me. I mean, I think it'd be great to ask for some parks funding.
Can I get with you afterwards and get some contact ideas?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because I said it earlier, but I know what'll happen to number 2 on slide 11. Eliminate vacant supervisor of arts education will be the headline. And there'll be 4,000 emails that you're doing away with our art program. And we'll be going, no, 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 no. What we're doing is replacing 2, and we're going to give 2 people stipends. That will never be heard. They'll hear eliminate arts education, and they'll go completely nuts, rightly so. And we'll never, it'll kind of be like pre-K. It'll come back to bite hard, in my opinion. And same, with some of these others. So if we can be proactive in keeping that from happening, it will be great. Other comments on these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars that we put on things?
Chris, in your figuring here, speaking of pre-K, where in the budget are we with pre-K?
So this year, there was a reduction in 6 pre-K classrooms that worked out to be about $970,000. We took that money from our carryover in Title I funding. So we have the same number of pre-K balanced here. We have some ideas on trying to maximize pre-K funding, but you're still looking at almost $1 million being pulled away to make sure that we can still supplement pre-K at the height and the current number that it is.
So, to summarize, the current budget covers what we have this year, that's the 6 classes.
The only way that we currently have that we can recoup some of that funding is 4 of our pre-K classrooms are currently in elementary schools where they are not classified by NC pre-K. So we are paying 100% of the cost of those classrooms because they're not certified and approved by NC pre-K. One suggestion is to move some or all of those to either Howe or Johnson, where we can at least recoup half of the funding from them.
We will be including a 2.33% increase to the amount of pre-K. That'll be part of our county request to help cover the salaries of the individuals in that program.
When you move them out of the schools and to the centers, that disrupts a lot of families' lives that already have set up systems.
It does.
That to have their kids at the school with pre-K with their older kids, and also the teachers and a lot of other things. So that's a really difficult thing to have to do for the community. So even though it sounds on paper, oh good, we can move them and make some, say, get some money from the state.
No movement is easy.
We're hearing about it already. It's very, very difficult for these families and for the school community.
It will be very unpopular if that has to be done.
But then what you're looking at is that differential of that about $300,000 or so that could take this. Can you go forward a couple of slides, please? There you go. That could take that 2.5 number down to 2.2, 2.1. But we have to make decisions. And this is what I'm trying to communicate, that we don't have any easy decisions left.
Maybe just to throw out, I'm sorry. I should raise my hand.
Yes.
Hi. Just to throw out a good example, in every single year that I have existed in New Hanover County, we have asked principals, what are your priority needs within schools? And at every single occasion, almost every principal, regardless of if this affects them or not, says every school needs at least 1 AP. And that's one of the items that we're talking about is at that threshold between necessity and need. Mary C. Williams, a colleague here to the left, currently operates with a halftime AP.
Right.
I'm sure you can speak to what that means.
I want to take this opportunity to say that we've said this a lot at previous meetings, and we haven't said it in this forum. I've been a shared assistant principal. I have a shared assistant principal right now. We are paid, and we are looking to move schools forward every single year. We're evaluated on that. Assistant principals can help us hold the line with safety and help us hold the line with instruction. Assistant principals have a really hard, it's very difficult for them to help us push us forward to meet those goals. And that's what we're trying to do every year, is move our kids forward, keep the school safe, move us forward, hit our targets for proficiency, growth, all those things. Assistant principals just come in and have a set thing that they can do on that certain day, and then they move on to the other. And the other piece to that, which happens to be most of our assistant principals that are split in this county are at smaller schools, which happen to also be Title I schools. So these are high-needs schools, high-needs kids that are sharing an assistant principal. And this needs to be, if we're looking at that priority list, it needs to be high on that. If we're looking at that STAR thing.
Which is how it made it as far as it has, because we believe that as well. I think some of the impact is we don't have a credit card where I can say, I'm just going to put 2.5 million on there. And we can't say, oh, the kids will come back. We'll get kids back. That's not the projection we're seeing. And so somewhere between this number and balancing is where we are. And this isn't the kind of number that would go away if I said we're going to have a hiring freeze for a month, or we're going to do a spending freeze for a period of time. That won't make you 2.5 million.
And let me give my Carolina Beach comment here in terms of one of the things I learned while I was there for the day with the principal. I asked about enrollment, of course, and her kindergarten class, the differentiate between the number of students in kindergarten now versus those that are moving on from fifth grade, from elementary school, fifth grade, that number differentiate was 27. She'll have 27 less students next year, which is a classroom. So how does she manage that? We did that exercise about allotments meeting before. And so I asked, okay, what are the reasons why you're not going to have this many students? And the county will understand this. The parents move off the beach and out of that school district, or the districting, because they can't afford to live there anymore because the cost of living is too high. And so she has less students. That's what she 100% attributed it to. And it's something that broad range, long-term, has to be addressed. I know you're talking about it, don't get me wrong. But the argument that the birth rate and declining enrollment, and Dr. Barnes talks about this all the time, it's not something we did wrong that we have declining enrollment. He's proved that to himself because he really agonized over it for some time. But it's not that we've been, a terrible school district and we're losing students. As Ms. Barnhart says all the time, the cost of living to live in our county has just gone up, and we're losing students for that way. And it's going to continue. It's not going to come back next year, the next year. It might come back in 10 years, but do we have the ability to wait that long?
There are 115.
She's next.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, not you. I was talking to
There are
Sarah.
115 districts in the state school systems. 100 of them have lost enrollment this year. And our number of charter school, private school, and homeschool students over the last 3 years has not increased. So I spent the first year feeling horribly guilty that we were failing our children somehow, and that's why they were leaving. We're not seeing those numbers translate in that way. So birth rate and cost of living are the only two reasons we can come up with why our student enrollment is not staying static.
Ms. Barnhart, and then Ms. Justice.
Thank you. I want to point out something, and Dr. Barnes alluded to it, but as we look at these decisions being made, it's how can we cut costs and not impact the programs that we're providing for our students. And so pre-K got lifted up as one of those things to say, how can we do this differently, still service these children in a way that they were still going to get a quality education, maybe in a different building, but we're able to still service the same number of people. The alternative is we can serve less kids. I hate that alternative personally, but that's my opinion. And so when we're going through and evaluating these things, if there's a way to potentially do things differently and still provide the service for kids, that has to be the bottom line. That's my bottom line when looking at this. So like the art supervisor, rather than having a specific person in the district giving a stipend to teachers in our district to support the work, is an alternative means to do that. Like these are the suggestions they're coming up with. And so I appreciate this all being brought forth. I just want to lift that up as looking at ways that we could potentially do things differently and still provide quality services is the goal of this.
Yes. Ms. Justice?
We can shift people around for that.
Right.
But in truth, everybody sitting here, anybody, are we on camera?
Okay. We are. In truth, the true solution is for the legislature to give us a budget and to increase money for public education. We are 51st in the nation. We slipped down from 50th to 51st this year. You guys, this is a huge embarrassment. We are the 12th wealthiest state in the nation, and we're paying our kids at this rate. And people can sit in here and we can work our heads off and try so hard to do the right thing because we have to by our kids, but it's up to the public and everybody in here to try to work with this legislature and convince them to do the right thing by our kids. Because this is a disaster and heartbreaking. And I might sound like I'm doing a speech, but I got into education because I love education and kids. And I've been in this state since '89, watching, and I worked through the Jim Hunt era, and it was amazing, and it inspired me. A lot of people were going into education, and now it's the total opposite, and has been that way for 15 years.
Thank you, Ms. Justice. We got to move on. We have 20 minutes left.
I know, okay, but I'm just saying that is where the true need is. We need to get these
Thank you,
people
ma'am.
that can help us to help us.
Ashley, are you ready to move on?
I am.
Okay, so we're going to move on to sustainability, which is in that package with the beautiful paperclip that was paid for out of Ms. Brinson's personal pocket. So that's not school district money paying for that beautiful paperclip.
Before Ms. Brinson starts, I just wanted to give a little bit of information.
Oops, sorry.
No, that's fine. As she's going through this sustainability plan, I just wanted to point out, so some of the things, so of course, we purchase intercoms, we purchase cameras and devices, but we currently don't have the funding for this sustainability plan. We're using lottery money, some capital appropriations from the county, but we have included, as you all know, in the bond, funding for technology, which would be part of how the sustainability plan would be funded if that bond gets approved. And then also, our board has approved for us to submit a request to the endowment for devices to also help with the sustainability plan. Once again, we don't know if that the endowment would approve and fund that grant, but we do have that. So those are two sources that we're looking at to fund the plan. So I just wanted to share that before she started.
And I'm just going to throw in a little plug. Be paying attention to the news because State Auditor Dave Bullock is going to have an announcement about the state school funding lottery coming up in the next immediate future. He's teasing that up there, and I think he said the other day in the meeting we were in, the title would be something like State Lottery, It's Not What You Thought It Was. So be on the lookout for that. Take it away, Dawn.
So at a previous meeting that I attended here, I heard Mr. Zappel say, with capital, you have a sustainability plan. He was asking Dr. Morgan that. So I took that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a sustainability plan for all of technology. Before I get started, I kind of want to let you understand, when we get to the computer part, the cost of computers has increased substantially because of AI companies buying the computer processors and the memory chips. So a laptop that would have cost us, $500 now, or a week ago, is now like $700, $800. So the cost has substantially increased for computers. So that being said, any dollar amount on here with computers don't worry about it. It's all just there for the purpose sake of doing this, but it has changed dramatically. Okay, so I'm going to go through this. The first couple of pages are just an executive summary that you can read at your leisure. This plan is based on K2 having 10 iPads per classroom for students and then one for teacher. Grades 3, 5, one laptop cart for every 3 classrooms. And middle school, 1 cart for every 2 homerooms. High schools would be 1-to-1, and then, staff would get a laptop. That is not what the schools want. I will say that up front. Okay.
And the laptop cart is this really cool thing with all these cords, and they can plug their laptops in, and it rolls.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
that way the children don't have to take the laptop home to charge it.
Okay, so I kind of flipped to page 5, where you have the computer sustainability plan. The laptops typically last 5 years, and iPads, we can usually get, maybe 6 years out of those. So basically looking at, initially, we were looking at laptops and iPads for elementary. That would be your K2, all elementary teachers in K2 classrooms. Then moving on to our high schools, middle schools, and then the grades 3, 5. So this plan for these costs that are built into it was $12.2 million. The next item on page 7 is our interactive display boards. We use the word New Line, but that's just the manufacturer's name. Those are the boards that replace the projectors in the classrooms. The teachers like them because they're touchscreen and they're easier to use than a projector where they're having to go back behind their desk, in front of their desk, and plus also students are able to be at it. So currently, right now, we did use ESSER funds to start placing these interactive boards in classrooms, but we did not complete. So if you look on page 9, and if you go down to the top, and you can see where you don't see, or where you start seeing recordix, like at College Park, any schools before that do not have a device in every single classroom. Okay? Okay. These boards we're thinking they will last us like 8 years. It may be longer. We're not sure. This manufacturer that we switched to from Recordix to New Line, they seem to be better and last longer, but we won't know because we haven't reached that time period yet for any of those. So for this, it's basically for the total, which would be one complete cycle, is $8.7 million for the whole plan. That's an 8-year plan. Okay. The next item on there is the cameras. These are your security cameras in your schools. We've got those set that they would be on a 10-year replacement cycle. Currently, we have a Panasonic system in most of our schools. The Panasonic system has what's called an NVR, which is basically a computer storage box where all the video basically stays. That is an older system. Most places now are moving to a cloud service system, and which is what the Bricata does, so that saves us on some costs there. So you'll see at the top, if you go down, which schools, if you notice, there's only a few schools that have had the new system. So for this full cycle, you're looking at $9.8 million. And then intercoms. So intercoms, we're thinking last us about 15 years. Sometimes it's between 15 and 20-ish. We have made them last a little bit longer than that. So on page 16, if you start at the top, look at Bradley Creek down to CTEC, those have what's called, they're not the network systems, they are the analog systems. And when we have electrical storms, these are the ones that typically go out, and then we have to replace cards and other issues with them. So we're trying to replace all of our systems to network digital systems, and they tend to do much better. Okay.
And for some reason, I don't have a total on that, but I know I have it later. Okay. So if you go to page 18, and if you look, I've got year by year, starting with, I start with a year. I pick, next year. You can see when you add in each item what the total amount. So 26, 27, you'd be 2.8 million, and then you've got from 27, 28 to 30, 31, a little over 4 million, and then it drops down some because of, in the intercoms, there's some years where we wouldn't have to replace any because the existing systems aren't at that 15 years. But also understand that at the bottom, because like computers, the life cycle's shorter time than the intercoms, you'd be refreshing. So those numbers would actually go higher. So I only gave you like a complete 1 year life, or one life cycle of all of them. I didn't lay it all out. So you basically would have to add in for 32, 33, the computers for replacement of those initial ones that we purchased. Intercom is 15.
And computers are 6.
Computers are, laptops, we did 5 years. iPads, we did 6 years, I believe, 6 or 7.
And our goal is to begin building for this district and for this community sustainability plans so that we can continue to live within our means and provide what we need for students. But this sort of grabbing with one-time money and then coming back later and saying we can't afford to refresh it, this is a plan that brings you all the way through the next decade and a half. And so we think that the more we can start providing this for you as a community, for the commissioners, it's going to be easier to make sure that we're planning ahead.
So the existing laptops that we have in our middle schools and high schools, we purchased really good warranty with them. So we have been able to, if a device is broken accidentally, we've been able to get it replaced or fixed. So we have truly been able to maximize those dollars and getting those fixed. But Appendix A just talks about the warranty devices and when they're out of warranty. If you notice, one of those costs for the budget was to buy an extended warranty. Let's see, Laney and New Hanover went out of warranty in January. The rest of the high schools will go out of warranty at the end of the school year. And then the middle school laptops will go out of warranty the following school year. So what we're doing is looking at buying a third-party service, which is over $500,000 in order to have a warranty on those devices. And we're just, right now, the warranty covers staff and student devices. We are looking at only putting a warranty on student devices that go home. So the devices at the middle schools and elementary that would be staying in the schools, we won't be buying warranty on those to save some money. The warranty that we're looking to purchase would be on the existing devices that we have. When we buy new ones, like if capital funds that we have, when we buy those new ones, they will come with a different warranty. That would come with the manufacturer.
How many students provide their own laptops?
We don't do the BYOD network anymore or process anymore because it was not all students have them, so you kind of have your haves and have-nots, and then you have then different ones. Some students bring Apple, some bring Mac, some bring Chromebooks, and you're having the teachers then having to troubleshoot and provide support. You can see Miss Clark raising her head, providing the support for the kids, and it becomes another distraction in the classroom and taking away from the instructional time.
I just remember 10 years ago my son was required, gave the specs for what computer he needed to have. So you're saying nobody is bringing their own laptops?
I've been here 30 years. We have never required anybody to
Maybe
provide their own laptop.
Suggested?
The teachers may have done that. I've not done that.
Yes, Mr. Worthington.
One of the things that has changed since the beginning of my principalship is that now all of our universalized assessments happen on those devices, and so it has to be universal across the board. That's probably one of the bigger things, that when a student walks into a classroom to take an end of grade test, it has to be the same device that they've used all year and the same device as their colleagues around them.
you did hear me say that you guys wouldn't be happy about that. So, and like I said, that's not the final plan. We are looking at the costs, okay? Appendix B on page 21 just goes into the yearly repair costs. And part of the reason why middle schools are not sending them home anymore is because that's where a lot of the damage has been happening. So they have decided to keep them in the classrooms. And part of our capital request this year is to provide all the middle schools with carts, so that way they can charge the devices. Because right now, the schools that are keeping them in the schools and not sending them home, they have either purchased their own carts or have kind of makeshifted out of something, some kind of storage in order to keep those devices safe and being able to charge. So we felt like we need to buy them the carts so that way they can do it in the most efficient way. Okay. So on page 23 is our Appendix C, talks about our E-rate. So kind of wanted to go into funding that we do get. So we do apply for E-rate funding every single year that it comes out. The process has changed. E-rate will only cover internet service, WAN service, and then the network cabling, and then the network devices, like inside the switches, the access points. It does not cover student devices or staff devices. They will not do that. So we do apply that is how, if you notice, none of our capital requests have been anything talking about the infrastructure devices. No servers are on there, no cabling is on there, no switches are on there, because we're covering that through our E-rate process. So if you look at page 24, you will see over the last 5 years, we have spent between what we get from the federal funding, which is the E-rate, as well as what the state puts in, we have spent $5.7 million on maintaining and upgrading our network. So that's money that the district hasn't had to pay, the county hasn't had to pay, that's kind of come from outside. So I kind of wanted to make sure that that was pointed out.
But let me point out, one of the legislative things that we have asked repeatedly is to change this E-rate so that we could pick up the cabling and devices. It wouldn't be that big of a deal, you know, to the federal government, but that's something we have asked.
Clarify question.
Yes.
I think it was probably a year ago, there was a federal opening to give feedback on E-rates, specifically in regards to whether or not student devices would qualify under that umbrella. And so that's a sign of the slowest movement ever of potential change in the federal government. So is that still at a standstill, that it's not being considered, or are they still collecting the data of support for that?
They are not collecting data anymore, and we've
Okay.
heard nothing.
Okay,
I
so
will
they've collected the data, and it's something that potentially they're considering.
Yeah, I will say, at one time when ESSER, when we were through the pandemic with COVID, they actually allowed Wi-Fi on buses to be included. That has been discluded now, so it is no longer available. So they are changing what they're providing funding for. Okay.
But that is something that we can follow up on at the federal level.
And then I wanted to share on page 25, and I won't say these are 1,000% numbers, because I was going back in my memory and my years looking at the capital funds that we have received, because up until the ESSER funds, the only funds that we've had for devices and to maintain all of our technology has been through capital requests, and majority of it coming from the county. So I wanted to share what we've received in capital funds as far as technology. That being said, I do understand that, those same years, money has been given for construction and other things. So just because I got this in capital funds doesn't mean that that was the total amount of capital funds that were given. As a matter of fact, it's not the total amount of capital funds that were given each year. This is just what technology got.
Questions? So that's a lot to digest.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
So what is the request to the county this year for having developed that?
That was
Yes.
actually, yes, that was in the capital request.
And it's in the minutes from last month. We asked.
So that number's still good? It's in here, in the minutes?
Yeah, the one from the minutes is what the board then approved after we recommended from this committee to the board. That's the number that the board, our board approved to then ask you for. Yes, sir.
Wasn't it like a total, like 2.8 or something? I can't remember. Yeah.
Yeah, the capital request from schools to the county is 2.8 million.
Great, okay, and it covers everything you just went over.
No, I only get a portion of that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but it will not cover, like, everything in here that I said for 26, 27, it will not cover those. As a matter of fact, the part that I get won't even cover devices. Okay, so this is to understand that to fund the technology, it takes a considerable more amount of money than we are getting. That is why we are applying for the endowment, and we've been trying to take advantage of other resources that we have.
Got it, but you're not making an additional.
No, sir. No, sir.
But we had asked for a sustainability plan long-term of what our needs would be, and that's what this is. So hopefully that is helpful. If we,
Madam Chair, you mentioned briefly the minutes, I apologize for being late. I noted in the minutes there was on page 1, you noted $257,000 is for the people cost of the budget. I think that was a typo, I just want to make sure the record reflected the correct amount. The second to last line on the first page.
what's it start with? Oh,
Of the
yeah.
$310.5 million, $257,715 is for people. I think there's a comma or a zero or a couple of zeros left off. I'm sure.
I think there is.
We will look at it and fix it, and then we will bring amended minutes to the next meeting.
Yes, I think you can just change it. I don't know if anybody would object. You're missing $20 million there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's short a couple of dollars that we really need. So with that said, let's look at our next meeting. Budgetary wise, we had an ambitious schedule to be ready to go to the county by tax day, and I don't think that we're going to meet that deadline, that self-imposed deadline. Not self-imposed me, but as a school district. So Dr. Barnes and Ashley are stretching that a little bit because of the things that you've seen that we've got a gap and we can't figure out how to solve that. So we're looking at this next meeting not being on a Thursday, but being on a Tuesday. And we're looking at 10 to 12. There is a meeting that the superintendent has right after that would then just follow us. So they would, April 21st, because what we're trying to do is get in between the superintendent talking to board members about the budget and between we give the full budget to the public. So that's between the 17th and the 28th, and this is the only date we could find in there at this point. 10 to 12. 10 to 12. So different time, different day, the 21st of April. So if y'all will mark that down, that's pretty much the best option we have because of the constraints of where we are with budgeting. We're not where we were last year, but we're still ahead of schedule, hopefully. And with that said,
Hey, Madam Chair, I
Yes,
just
sir.
want to make sure what you're saying is you're saying that the schools will not be able to get a formal request to the county until after April 21st?
I did not say that.
Okay, good, that's what I wanted to check.
I'm not the authority that can speak to that. They just left to go to a county meeting.
Yeah, okay.
But Jenny, help me out. The proposals that we have for dates, what I'm aware of is that, yes, we have an agenda review on the 28th, and we will go over that full budget proposal then and have a vote, as far as I know, if we have a majority that are willing to vote to approve, change, or otherwise. But
28th of?
April.
You recognize that 40% of the county budget is schools. We, thank goodness we have top brains here
Yes.
to hear and absorb a lot of this, but we are going to be very hard pressed without that official request. So I don't know if there's anything you can do to jump that or to speed that up. We're going to have a big hole in our budget it's going to make it more increasingly difficult to cover until we get the school's request.
Yeah, we're painfully aware of that.
Okay.
These documents we just went over with you are the reasons why that we have this delay of where we wanted to be. Statutorily, I don't think we have to get it to you till May, so we've always tried to do it way early. But right now, there are things we don't have solutions for. There's hard choices our board's going to have to make, and we need the time to do that.
And just to put an asterisk on, or an exclamation point on what we just went over today, a $2.5 million shortfall, that's about 1/3 cent property tax increase. That's the lens that I'm looking at. Am I correct, Amanda?
He's like, hold on.
1/3 penny. Oh, okay, I'm just saying, but it's a property tax increase.
And then that goes to deliberations in your board. We have no say in that.
No, I know, but the money's got to come from somewhere. So I just, we're saying the same thing, Madam Chair, that I know we both want to get this to us so that we can figure out a way to pay for it. But right now, man, 1/3 penny. We can spend $8.1 million.
So yes, you understand our dilemma. So anything else to bring before this committee before we adjourn? All right, we have a motion and a second, so we are adjourned. Thank you. I know we cut that short because we had an overlap with something the county scheduled.